Jon Smith, my man, it's great to be seeing you again, and I'm really excited to be breaking down the concept behind athletic training and about how to kind of separate yourself in these different facets of being a high-performing athlete. I know that over last year, as I was doing the podcast related to faith in sport, that was kind of the way we got connected. I wanted to
Mm.
tell you I appreciate that, the support that you gave to it, and watching everything that was happening with that. But then I thought it was super cool, unexpected, but amazing when our guy Heath Baldwin was going on his way to head to Paris and kind of have the send off at Michigan State. We were in that same room at the fuel station in Genesee
Mhm.
Fieldhouse, East Lansing. And I look and I go, wait a second, I know him. Like, oh man, it set in there that we were kind of in that same environment. So again, that was another moment where I appreciated you for being willing to engage with me and kind of just share a couple thoughts. And then what I didn't know was that you were headed down to Athens, Georgia. So talk
Yep.
to me at first as we're beginning here, like what it's looked like to be at Michigan State and then make that move down to the Southland and be in Athens, Georgia.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely been a pleasure. I say getting to know you, and I say staying connected in little ways. And who knew, kind of at that time, even in the earlier this summer, that I was going to transition down here and working for UGA with track and field. And it's been a definitely a good transition overall. It's been working with a different environment. I mean, Georgia's a different place than Michigan, and I'll tell you that. And it's definitely a higher pressure, higher stress level, but it's a good group of athletes, and we're trying to strive at a high level down here. It's been a good experience so far.
Good, 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 good. I think it's interesting what you said about having made that move and experiencing the change in the expectation. Is that something that when you first moved, you were kind of bargaining for? You were thinking, I know that this is going to happen? Or has it been something that you're introduced to as you're getting later into your time?
Oddly enough, in the interview process for this position, it was kind of like you kind of pick up, you get a feel of the environment you're gonna might be entering, and you could tell like, all right, it's a higher stress environment. We want to win here. There's definitely a sense of urgency that the staff has around, but also the athletes, the coaches have, and you can sense it in almost top down. It's the whole administration that has it, and it was something that, all right, I knew this is what one of the things I was looking for in the next step, and it wasn't too much of a surprise, but you never know what it all entails until you actually start doing it. And but it's been good. It's been definitely a good experience. But we're pushing hard, and pressure is a good thing.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I like what you said about the top down and kind of the feelings on it that persisted through the whole environment of the organization. As you're making that transition, I'm so curious. Is like what were your first orders of business of like this is my show to run now, this is the program, this is how we're going to do it. How did that look for you as you were getting started?
I say in my role, I'm still a support staff member as a strength and conditioning coach. So I work with a large variety of athletes from all the different event groups that work with track and field. So like my first order was to make sure I was on a clear page with the event coach and what they were doing. So whether that's our sprints and hurdles coaches, our jumps multis coach, distance coaches, and kind of throws coaches, and having an understanding what my role is going to be and what my impact can be, them knowing who I am, but also knowing what their expectations are. So we know, all right, as soon as, athletes start coming on campus, this is what's going to happen.
Hmm. Yeah, and running in very much alignment with that is the qualities that some of these athletes have. So I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing, as much of time as you've spent in high level athletics in the college space, there's got to be some similarities between those who are performing at the highest level. What have you noticed about during your time, qualities and kind of ways in which these athletes begin to separate themselves and when they kind of start to make strides to get to that next level?
I think there's two sides to that coin. You can kind of have the simpler side, I say, which is the physical side, which, you know, where a lot of them are, I'd say, naturally physically gifted, where they're naturally a little bit more elastic than other athletes. They might naturally be a little stronger, a little bit more powerful. And those things, some of those are just gifts, and some of those are actually traits that, they developed at a younger age and they come to a college level and they're really well developed. But another thing that you kind of see with very high level athletes, you see the mental side of things and the determination they have. And it's almost like this certain drive that you can tell that certain athletes have where, I've seen it in my past and you see it here, like, all right, the will to win is more present than other athletes and the competitive edge is there. So they know, all right, to ultimately, like, there's a lot of people here and even at other places I've worked who are like, all right, winning is kind of at all costs. We're trying to win. But having the drive to do the things before that to take what it takes to win, that's like what really sets people apart in like the day-to-day effort. So that's I guess the biggest thing you kind of see with some of the higher levels to the lower levels.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I know it's the middle of November when this show will come out, and been a couple weeks since October. But there was an interesting thing that I was watching on your social medias talking about Squattober, right?
Yep.
And what Sorinex was doing, and kind of this call to those out there who are engaged in performance and lifting to do it. I was wanting to know more about that. Like, how did that become a thing? How did you approach that month, and what was the competition like to do more or to be better in that way?
Squattober, I think I came across it when I was a graduate assistant at Michigan State. And really, it's just about camaraderie and fitness and movement and strength training overall. It's, 5 days a week of squatting. And there are various intensities, and it's all about just I guess, the culture of bonding through strength training, through adversity. Yes, there's going to be ups and downs, but doing that with a group of people, and that's where we post on social media, where like there was about 8 of us here on staff that were doing it, but there was also friends in other states, and you're posting on social media because we're all doing the same program and all feeling, oh, we're really sore from the last Tuesday's workout, but Wednesday's workout, we still had to show up and do it, right? So it's kind of like that's the bonding and of, strength culture was really what it is. And it's, I've only been doing it for, I guess, it's 6 years, I think, 5 or 6 years, somewhere around that. But that's the adventure of it. It's fun. It's just about camaraderie. It's not too competitive necessarily. It's more we see what your body can do, and that's where testing is. And that's where I always encourage people that may think, oh, squatting every day is bad for you. It's not necessarily for the overall periodization of everything. It's more just like putting yourself through a real training program that might not be easy. And that's more the mental adversity as well as the like camaraderie of like, oh yeah, you can develop strength. You can push yourself. This is what I guess training could look like in a sense. So it's definitely a good experience, and it's just a fun thing to do with other people. So it's a good time. Always recommend it. If you ever want to do it, it really is open to anybody. At the very least, you're just going to get better at squatting, and that's a win in itself.
That's right. That's right. Man, that's cool. That's cool. I enjoy what you said about the community side of things. That's something
Mm-hmm.
that appeals to me, just from the sense that, I think to bridge what we've talked about here is like there's this side of the expectations and trying to win and being at all costs. But on the other side of the coin, like you were saying, there's always two parts to it. And the flip is, well, how do we build stronger relationships? And I also know that you mentioned your role as a support person, playing a role on that staff. Like, are there any moments where, and this is just out of pure curiosity, but when athletes come to you about different things, differently from just here's how I can get better or what lift are we doing next? Like are there more conversations? Are there deeper levels of relationship there?
Yeah, there definitely is. And that's, I guess, the time side. That's what I love about my job. I work with, I guess, there's about almost 80 athletes on the team here. In my prior roles, it's been more athletes even than that. But you develop relationships over time and getting to know who they are, getting to know what their, I guess, life goals might be, whether it's athletically, but also just post collegiately, and just kind of building those relationships so you can help mentor them, help support them in, I guess, a more, I guess, human way where it's peer to peer almost. And how can I just be a good supporting figure for them, whether they're having a bad day and you just need to pick them up, or they're having a bad day and maybe you just need to give them some more room that give them room to grieve or point them in a better direction to help get more help for them. So that's, I guess, definitely a value role of mine is to make sure supporting the person first, but also supporting the athlete.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I got one fun one for you before we
Yep.
get out of here. And thank you so much, by the way, for your time and willing to engage with this. What is something that, because I know you've been in Athens for a little while now and started to understand what it's like there. What is something about being at a Southern school, being in the SEC that has surprised you or that's been a kind of enjoyment that you maybe weren't expecting?
You know, after the SEC, we take our sport seriously. Like when I say it's I don't know if it's a Southern culture, but it's it's kind of fun to watch. Like, all right, a football game happens, a soccer game happens, a volleyball game happens. All right, the town's coming. Like you're gonna see a lot of people show up for a football game. I mean, I've heard people driving in from hours away just come for a game. So it's kind of awesome to see that culture. Not there saying it wasn't present in other schools, but it's like definitely an emphasis on, all right, there's a sports culture in the area, as well as just kind of good people in the area that really buy into, I guess, University of Georgia sports. So,
Sure. Absolutely.
yes,
Well,
definitely a surprise.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, that's so interesting. I know back in September, I got a chance to go to Oklahoma. So I saw
Yeah.
Norman and kind of what all
Mm-hmm.
is happening there. But I came away saying that same thing of like, it's different here. You can't really put a finger on it, but like, man, there's something here that's going on. That's unique.
Yes.
Even the Big
Mm-hmm. We love our
Time.
sports. That's the thing. It's kind of awesome to see how many people really show up for all the different, especially Olympic sports, where Olympic sports might not always get the amount of attention that say football or basketball does. But I went to a soccer game and I was like, oh, I can barely get a seat. Same
Wow.
thing for a volleyball game, and I was like, oh wow, this is big.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Man. Well, thank you again. And
Yeah.
that's the Rec Room with Jon Smith. Let's
All right,
go.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Man, it's good to stay in touch and great to hear your perspective on this field and industry. And I love it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I will definitely have to stay in touch.
Absolutely. Absolutely.